ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the eKartingNews.com Debrief podcast. David Cole here with me, Rob Howden again, and we are just a couple days from what was a fantastic event up in Sonoma, California, the SuperKarts USA Spring Nationals, getting things rolling for the second event on that SuperKarts USA Pro Tour. Lots to talk about there, of course. Lots of action. There's been a ton of online discussion as well on Facebook regarding how rough it's been and the kind of nasty it was out there. Guys up front didn't have the same issues as guys in the mid-pack, of course. Again, just before we get rolling, this is the EKN Debrief and kind of a wrap-up of the events that have happened in the past weekend of racing. This particular show presented by Champion Racing. Do want to thank Champion, Rodney Berryhill, and the family for stepping up to support us here on eKartingNews.com. A little plug for them. Champion Racing is the U.S. importer and distributor for the race-winning Intrepid chassis line, including the new Intrepid F4K 206 chassis for that growing class. Champion Racing is a two-time EKN Team of the Year and is the only team to finish first, second, and third at the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals in the KZ category. Champion has protected dealer areas available, and the official race team has Pro Tour driver programs available as well, all led by number one plate holders Danny Formau and Ryan Kinnear and up-and-coming star Harry Gottsacker. To learn more, visit them at championkart.com. David Cole, we got a guest joining us here as well when we start talking about the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour Spring Nationals. Ryan Norberg on the line with us. We'll get to him in a bit as well. But David, all in all, a decent weekend, at least I think from our side, in terms of the fact that weather was beautiful. The event always came off well. The track is awesome to race on. We did see some really, really good racing. Even though there was some tough stuff, we did see some really good racing as well. What are your thoughts on the trip to Sonoma?
Well, thankfully this time at Sonoma we had great weather. A month ago it was a little bit rainy, so we had the challenge of that. But this time it was, other than wind, it was perfect racing condition weather. But on track it was pretty heated through most of the categories. I mean, even the Masters categories we saw were very hotly contested with a lot of I don't want to say anger issues, but a lot of just a lot of heated driving, and not necessarily the best racecraft out there.
I think you and I will probably go into this a little later, Dave, on another podcast where we'll talk more about just I don't know if phenomenon is the word, but the prevailing attitude on the racetrack, maybe, that there's just such a drop in racecraft, a lack of respect for a lot of the drivers, because we look at the event there and there was some great racing. You were able to see all the way through the fields, packed as they were, over 40 drivers in a number of classes. And there was really good racing. There was guys out there battling back and forth and really racing hard. And it was exciting to watch. But then you'd see some of these starts. Turn 1, Turn 3 were pretty nasty in a couple of the races. And I think you and I were both kind of taken aback by just how bad the racing was. And, David, I'll let you speak to this. It kind of surprises me, considering we weren't at Phoenix. Phoenix is a tough track to pass on. And I get that if you got to get a little more aggressive at Phoenix. But you and I identified between 6 and 8 really legitimate overtaking opportunities at Sonoma. But still, people were making crazy mistakes. They were trying wild passes. They were trying to go for 2-and-1s, like trying to get two guys into a corner when one was enough. The track itself lent itself to really clean racing, but we just didn't see that.
Well, I think you saw it more in like S1. I think we saw a lot of clean racing in S1. And there's a reason for that. They're the pro guys. We don't call X30 pro. We call it X30 senior, because there's only probably a handful of drivers who actually could be considered a pro driver. And I think that's a big part of it. It's racecraft. A lot of these kids in the kid categories, other than micro, really just don't have that racecraft. And it was surprisingly the micro division where they kind of respected each other. They didn't want to crash each other out. They just wanted to race, have fun, get out of the go-kart, and go play again. It could be just. I mean, we've seen this at Lancaster, or not Lancaster, Modesto. Guys driving over their heads. It wasn't the racetrack. It was guys driving over their heads. And this weekend as well. The racetrack was perfect. We've seen 8 different passing opportunity sections on the racetrack, and guys were just trying to take more than they could chew.
You know, David, one of the funny things that I saw, somebody had posted a photo, one of the shots that the guys took, from Tom McCullough, one of the guys from On Track Promotions had taken, and it was a shot of the carts rolling up the front straightaway. And I want to say, I think every car you could actually physically see in the photo had a bent-in front bumper. And that just spoke volumes, you know. There's people out there calling right now for the pushback bumper system, whether that's it's not a perfect system. And I think that's what people need to understand is that over in Europe, there are manufacturers calling for it for the CIK to stop using the pushback. There's issues in terms of getting a penalty when you didn't do anything. But the simple fact is that photo showed how much contact that occurred at the racetrack.
Yeah, the pushback bumper. We've kind of gone over this in our podcast before. It's not a complete remedy. It still has to lie within the drivers to drive properly, you know, and to not drive over their heads and to not drive stupid and not ram their bumper into the bumper ahead of them just to move the guy so he can get around them. It's all going to boil down, and it's not officials either, too. You know, officials can only do so much. Video can only do so much. The drivers still need to drive the way they should.
It's really, to a certain extent, I'll use this term, it's kind of a sad situation when it all does come down either to having a piece of equipment on your cart that's going to be a tattletale piece, essentially, or that you actually have to have your hand slapped by the race director, and it's being slapped and not slapped enough. So there's going to have to be people that are going to have to be thrown out for the day. They're going to be moved to the back of the pack for contact because they simply can't drive clean. And let's not go too deep into it because that's another podcast on its own. And I know there's lots of discussion happening. And I think it's good for us to give Supercarts USA a couple. You know, let's give them a week to get. You know, they just finished cleaning up yesterday. They're probably not even back home yet in terms of driving everything back to the head office. So let's give them some time to get home, settle, debrief themselves, and decompress, and then figure out what they want to do moving forward. Because I'm hoping, and I would not even hoping, I would assume something will happen more aggressively, especially with the feedback that we've got from team owners and from drivers and families, etc. Let's more look at the positive side of it. 9 categories on track, over 240 total entries. Not sure if that's quite a record, but very close to a record for the Pro Tour. Great numbers, lots of great drivers, and David, in the Pro categories, 4 different winners, which I think is amazing. Nick LeDuc and Billy Musgrave able to win in S1. Ryan Norberg back to the top of the box in X30 Senior, as did Braden Eves. Just, you know, to see some of the talent up front. There is a lot of quality drivers here, and the guys that were able to stay out of trouble were kind of able to find themselves to the front. And first and foremost, a really great run by Nick LeDuc in S1 to get that victory for Sody Kart and, of course, for Cambrian Karting.
Well, first off, it's not only 4 different winners on the weekend, it's 4 different winners in each category for the season so far.
That's true, yeah.
S1 and X30 Senior have had 4 different winners in 4 different rounds. So it's this. I don't think this has ever happened in the Pro Tour history that we've seen this. Ryan Norberg, who we'll talk with in just a bit, he's done a double. A number of other drivers have done doubles in S1 and so on and so forth. But, so right now, this is probably the most competitive our top 2 divisions have ever been. And this past weekend, we saw in the S1 category, we saw a couple drivers that we knew were fast. We just didn't know if they were going to be there at the end. And LeDuc did it, was able to defend his home turf on Saturday. It was a very emotional victory for him. And then on Sunday, you know, it just happened to be a technical DQ that gave Billy Musgrave the win, but still. Nothing to take away from his performance because he was just as fast as anybody there was there.
Yeah, agreed. All weekend long, Musgrave was super quick, and LeDuc's win was big. He's tried many times, and it's always great when you can get that victory on your home track. And of course, with the guys at Cambrian as well, who supports the Sonoma facility, 24/7. Great to see Nick get that win. And you're right, Billy Musgrave was strong, good racing. Danny Formal had the race win essentially across the line, but that broken airbox ended up DQing him. Tough one for Danny Formal and the guys from Champion Racing, but. Yeah, a big win for Billy Musgrave as well. X30, it's been interesting, and I think I mentioned it on the EKN live broadcast, and we'll bring him in here momentarily. Ryan Norberg kind of getting now really comfortable with the guys at PSL Karting, getting comfortable with the Burrell Art chassis. There's that national number 1 up front all weekend long, Dave. It was just a really solid run.
Definitely, for sure. With him, it was kind of a target on him the first weekend in NOLA. We saw that nobody wanted to work with him. He had the number one plate on. It was kind of, he was out there solo. This weekend he had a couple teammates under the tent, kind of help him probably on and off the track. We'll kind of ask him about that more a little bit later. But he seemed more composed this weekend, even though he was completely under the weather. He seemed a little bit more composed this weekend and wasn't flustered by the actions going on track.
You know, David, with that intro, let's bring him in here right now. Our first ever guest on the EKN Debrief. Ryan Norberg joining us here, the PSL karting driver, national number one plate holder, the reigning champion in the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour X30 category. Ryan, is David summing it up? Did you kind of feel like you were the Lone Ranger there at NOLA Motorsports Park on the Burrell Red in a sea of Tony karts?
Hey, David. Hey, Rob. Yeah, kind of. Last year, when I came to the series, nobody really knew who I was. That wasn't really my coming out year yet. So when I was up at the front, I think it kind of surprised everybody. And now this year with the number one panel, it does put a target on your back. In NOLA, I got no help at all from anybody, and nobody wanted to work with me. And it was the same issue here too as well. But with having my teammate Marin Kremers there, it did help out a lot. Also, the Burrell was fantastic the whole weekend. We didn't really deviate that much from the stock setup that was on it. Yeah, it just a lot of things were clicking this weekend.
Would you look at a track like Sonoma and say that maybe it fit your style? As you said, you didn't make a lot of changes. You and Martin look really good out there. It seemed like you were, I don't want to use the word cruise control, but you guys just had things going. You were able to go anywhere where you wanted on the track. It just seemed like the setup you guys had was perfect, and that maybe that track kind of suited your style.
Yeah, the track definitely suited both Marin and my style a little bit. Together, though, we worked on a setup during practice to where he could basically push me out of the corners, and then on the straightaway, I'd pull just enough that it would drag him back on the straightaway. And that's what you saw on Saturday, is when he and I got together, we were pretty much unstoppable because he pushed me through the infield and I'd pull him on the straightaway. Time-wise, we were about the same. But when it came down to just consistent lap times, that little half-tenth can make a big difference here. The Sonoma track, though, it's one of my favorite tracks so far. I mean, I've never been to it before, but still, every corner is either dipping away or driving up. It was a really fun track, and it made for a lot of great racing.
Overall, now that you're home from the weekend, I would assume that you probably took a nice sigh, a little a breath of fresh air with the fact that you were able to have a good weekend. You still did good at NOLA, but it wasn't kind of what you were used to the year before. You guys came out of the box strongly, of course, in Sonoma for the Spring Nats. Is the team just kind of clicking right now, or really was it that teammate that kind of helped you out the most, or is it the fact that you're connecting with PSL a little better?
I think it's a little bit of everything right now. In NOLA, we had an issue. It just we were all by ourselves, and I think for me it was kind of a wake up because running the number one, I was getting no help where I normally did, and where I could use somebody from an opposing team to catch the leaders, nobody would do that. So it left me out. And I finished, it was still a good result, but 4th and 5th is basically what happened. I was 4th and 5th out of the top guys that were working together, So, but definitely in Sonoma, the team was clicking. Having Marin there, it always helps to have somebody with a lot of knowledge and a good driving ability like him to just add in information to chassis setup and give data. And like we said, where we were able to tune one, he was able to be better in one area of the track and I was able to be better in another. We could work together, and then once we got together, it was hard to beat.
Give us your input on the quality of racecraft you were able to see. Now, you were kind of at the pointy end of the grid, which makes it a little easier if you're in the middle of the pack somewhere in the start, as you've been there, of course, in your past. I think everybody has. It's tougher when you qualify 10, 15, or 20. Your thoughts overall on maybe some of the racecraft you saw, whether you were in your own race or maybe you were hanging on the fence watching another race that you weren't in?
Well, my opinion is that this is the biggest series in the nation right now. It's at least the X30 Senior Championship is one of the closest championships I've ever been in. And with this many guys, it's a really tight race for the championship. And with that being said, I didn't expect any driver to give me an inch of racetrack and I wasn't going to give anybody else an inch of racetrack. I think that's how it goes when you're competing for the biggest championship in the nation. But I think there is a little bit of a lack of respect for drivers. But when I've gone over to Europe and I've raced with the drop-down bumper, the majority of the contact that was made out there was side pod to side pod. I don't think it could have been resolved with the drop-down bumper system. Obviously, in the middle of the pack, that would help those starts, and of course, because you don't have the whole field pushing you, which starting on the pole is actually pretty hard when you have 45 other go-karts shoving you into a tight corner for turn one. But still, the majority of the contact out there was side pod to side pod, which is fair play. I enjoyed the racing. I mean, obviously, I kind of got the bad end of it come Sunday's final, where I was leading on the last lap and ended up 7th. But I didn't come in complaining at anybody, yelling at any drivers. I mean, it's the biggest championship in the nation right now, and it's really tight racing. And then on top of it as well, the IAME program has really come far. It's a very even playing field, and the engines are very even across the board. So with that, and the fact that everybody was in a tenth of each other, I think it was inevitable to have really tough, hard racing.
I think you speak volumes that when you've got an engine package that it provides that level playing field, everybody's going to stack up, and we saw that, Ryan. You know, obviously you didn't hear me say it, but when we were qualifying, we're talking 38 to 40 guys all within a second. Exactly. It's so close. It's unbelievable. Now, let's ask you one more question, and we'll let you go. You know, you're looking good right now. You have the momentum. You're working your way. A couple of big races when it comes to IAME competition still to come. The Summer Nationals to cap off the championship for the Pro Tour. You're looking to defend your title. Talk about that first. You know, your thoughts of going to Newcastle to see if you can't win that championship again, and then looking forward to the Super Nationals in November, another obviously big race.
Yeah, the Summer Nationals is going to be interesting. It's like I said, it's a close championship, so I think everybody's going to be on their game and putting in 110%. Last year I was able to sweep the round, so that's a little bit of like some motivation going back to that track. And also the guy who was second was Kirkwood, and he was on PSL, and so they obviously know their setup as well there too. So I hope together we can be able just to put out a dominant performance. Hopefully we're thinking about having Marin come back just because it helps so much having an extra person there. But the Burrell chassis is going to work great, and I have no doubt in Allison Racing Engines that they'll just provide me with the best equipment to race up front. SCUSA, the Super Nationals, is definitely going to be interesting. It was an eye opener last year, going there for my first time ever. It's a completely different driving style, everything's just completely different. It was one of the most fun races ever. So I think definitely with a little bit more experience on my side, I can perform a little better.
You know, another thing about that too, Ryan, last year, of course, you were thinking championship. You know, you were in the Pro Tour, you went into this big race, and yeah, while you wanted to win, you also wanted to make sure you're going to win the championship. I've talked to a couple of guys already, and they're really happy with the fact that now that race, again, kind of a one-off. You can go in and just lay all your cards on the line. You don't have to start thinking championship when you're potentially running for what would be a Super Nationals win.
Yeah, I mean, definitely it does help having it as a one-off. Last year, I started 22nd, and the championship second-place runner, Kirkwood, was starting, I think, 21st. So we started side by side. So my whole focus on the race was just kind of finish the race. Don't let anything bad happen, because one slip up and you finish 45th on the track, that could change the championship result. So luckily I was able to get into 8th, but once I got there, the racing was so close and so tight, I really didn't want to risk anything to get up front. The bigger picture was obviously the championship, and just to come home with the race, the championship in hand. The racing was awesome in the last couple laps of that race. Craig ended up winning it, but it was a tight race, and I felt like maybe if it wasn't a one-off and I could play my cards a little better, maybe risk a couple passes here and there, I would have been able to compete for that win. Obviously, that's a shoulda, coulda, woulda situation, but but you know what I mean. I was driving a lot more hesitant in the final, so I'm really happy to see that it's a one-off race and not a part of the championship anymore.
Well, you'll definitely get another shot at it this year. It'll be exciting to see if you're able to work your way to the top of the box this time around. Ryan, congratulations on a big win at the Spring Nationals, jumping you right back into the championship chase, and we look forward to seeing you down the road at the Summer Nationals.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate being on here.
All right, folks, there's Ryan Norberg. Fantastic job here this weekend, and excellent to have him on the EKN Debrief. We're happy he was able to take a little bit of time out and join us. David Cole, talented young guy, and I think you and I talk about the fact of having that national number one plate on the side of the car. Ryan showed you right there. It's daunting. It's a target for sure.
Well, yeah, we're not seeing it just in that category, but all other categories. Ryan Kinnear in the S4 category, he's having a tough battle trying to defend this year. Robert Marks, he's got a target on his back. Everybody was after him this weekend in the S4 Supermaster category, and it's just that number one plate says a lot. We see some of the graduates even, Alex Bertignoli, just not, he's being fast, but again, another guy that people are trying to make sure they kind of throw a couple little side pods at him and make, slow him down a little bit, say, hey, welcome to the big show. And it's just that mentality of, hey, that's the guy I want to beat, and it's tough to defend that.
It was a great weekend. As I said, a lot of different areas of talking. As Ryan said, there was some great racing, but there was some rough racing as well. David, we'll move forward here because you and I had a chance to have, and we'll just jump at it real quickly. We had a chance to let's say we put a target on somebody ourselves. we put Mike Rawlson in the hot seat. A brand new podcast we did here for the EKN Radio Network. We talked about the Rawlson Performance Group. We talked about the Can-Am Karting Challenge he's got going on. We talked about a couple other industry topics in terms of road tax and the like. I thought it was a great first podcast for the hot seat. We pitched some tough questions at Mike, and I think I liked the response. He really was pretty honest with us.
Well, it's very difficult to get Mike sitting down during a race weekend.
That's true.
And we were able to do that for our debut hot seat. And, he did a really great job being honest and kind of wavering around a couple of the questions. But he got to the point and was very honest about some things that he said and gave a lot of good insight into what he sees both as a former driver, as a race team owner, and as a promoter.
If anybody wants to find out and see the remainder of our podcast, all the ones we've done so far, it's just ekartingnews.com/podcast. And that they're all lined up there, ready to go. We've started the debriefs. This is our third edition of the debrief. We got our first hot seat done. And David and I have a bunch of different ideas when it comes to different shows that we're going to be able to bring to the EKN Radio Network. And that's something that's going to be developed throughout this year as well. The whole EKN Radio Network is something we're working on. And we're excited to bring it to all our listeners and readers and to the industry in itself. David, let's get into some racing as well that wasn't in Sonoma. Before that event in wine country, I had a chance to go to Bermuda. It was rough. It was a struggle for me to have to go to Bermuda for a racing event.
Yeah, and the pictures prove it, don't they?
The Dockyard Grand Prix. The good folks from the Bermuda Karting Club invited me to come down and do a little play-by-play, and they were able to put together a 206 for me to drive. I had an awesome GP chassis, a 32 mil shifter cart, which is a perfect example of what you can do in the 206 category. You don't need a purpose-built cart. If you grab one, pull it out, and go racing. And it was just a lot of fun, David. It was it wasn't an overly technical street course. It was only 4 corners, but there was a couple of chicanes kind of coming into 2 of the corners. 2 of the other ones were flat out, at least in the 206. Tons of people there. Just a great atmosphere. We were right on the water at the Royal Naval Dockyards. America's Cup is there, so we had a bunch of guys from Team USA and Team Oracle there with us, racing actually with us as well. It was just a really cool event, and I would recommend that if somebody wants to knock a cool bucket list event off the next time the guys in Bermuda do a street race, they need to do it because they're looking at taking one back downtown Hamilton again, potentially back to the Dockyard too. It was just a lot of fun.
Well, it was kind of an oval, wasn't it? It was kind of like an Indy oval, really. I mean, if you're talking 4 corners.
For all intents and purposes, it was an oval. It was a big square. It was 4 blocks. We had to come through a couple of narrow areas, but in turn 1 and the 206 was flat out. Then you had a little right-left, just a tiny little right-left kind of chicane that led onto the back straightaway. So you had to actually get off, tap the brake a bit, get back on the throttle. And it was the same thing. Turn 3 was flat out, and then turn 4 again, just a little right-left back on. So it really was just an oval, but it was fun.
So would you drive a shifter there?
Would I? Yeah, I drive. I definitely drive a shifter there. Would I be off the gas and big time in the corners and on the brakes? Oh yeah. Like, am I Scott Skitchy Barnes or Austin Riley? No, no. They were. It was. I tell you. You know, when you.
Speaking of Austin Riley, I mean, it wasn't just Bermuda drivers there, was it?
No, there was a couple of guys. Actually, you know what? Driving wise, really, it was just myself and Austin from Canada that were there. But Marco Oldoffer from the F Series was actually assistant race director. He came down and lent his knowledge and abilities to the event as well. He got behind the wheel in the rental cart. They had a rental cart VIP race in the CRG Bermuda guys. They have a field of the CRG Barbarians, I think they're called. Unbelievable hot rods. I love those rental carts. They're big and heavy and fast, and we had a bunch of fun in those too. But I'll tell you, Austin Riley's impressive. Now, number one, he's just quick on the racetrack. He hardly makes a mistake. He just pushes hard. If he's going to make it back, he was all over Skitchy Barnes in the main event for 125. And I'm telling you, the crowd was going crazy. Now, you know, obviously Austin has autism. His program is Racing with Autism, and he connects so quickly with the fans and the people. While they were down there, I want to say they presented to at least 4 or 5 or 6 schools where they talked to the kids about what Austin's been able to do with autism, and the fact that he's found that thing that he's so good at, and he's able to achieve even with the diagnosis and what he's dealing with. And he's just, when he gets behind the wheel, he's so focused, and every pass he has to make has to be done cleanly. He got to the inside of Barnes a couple times in turn number 1 and probably could have forced the issue, but he didn't. It wasn't a clean pass, so he pulled back. And you know, we just saw news that he's going to be actually racing in the Micra Cup, the Nissan Micra Cup up in Canada this year, car racing series, and I think that's fantastic because he's just such a great young man.
Well, I think I'd like to see him at Rock Island. I mean, if you can go from the dockyard to Rock Island, it shouldn't be any issues. But I like the idea. We were seeing autism a lot in motorsports. Obviously, with Autism Speaks, a lot of promotion for that. But you know, we see it with Aaron Likens, his book writing and speaking. What am I trying to say?
Aaron's been a fantastic ambassador for autism, as you said, David.
Right.
He wrote this book, Finding Kansas. Aaron, of course, the national flagman for Superkarts USA, and probably one of the best flagmen in the world. Like, the guy's absolutely fantastic. He's got so much passion for it, and he focuses on it. And Aaron's the kind of guy that he's on the Asperger's scale, and he goes out and he actually speaks with FBI agencies and police forces and on how to interact with people that have autism, and we see that we've seen some people really step up in it, because I think motorsports requires such a dedicated focus to whatever it may be, whether you're waving flags and following a race and making sure everything's done correctly as a starter, or if you're behind the wheel driving yourself. I think that focus is able to be channeled, and it really has. Obviously, for Austin and for Aaron, it's been a place that they've been able to really excel and become among the best in their business, which I think is really exciting. And I think it's cool to see motorsports being leveraged in that way.
Definitely, for sure. But let's get to the real issue. What was your performance behind the wheel?
You know what? I had a lot of fun running that 206. There's a great group of Masters drivers in Bermuda, and they have between 12 and I think 16 guys that run at the local club race, and I had a lot of fun running with the guys. We didn't touch the go-kart at all. They had set it up perfectly for me. We hit the gear from the get-go, and once I got comfortable, we were flat out. I ran third in the first heat race. Actually, let me be honest. I bent an axle and I bent a steering shaft in the last practice session on Saturday morning.
So a typical Howden performance.
Whoa. Let's not throw me under the bus because it all ends well. But yes, I was trying to find a place to pass, and I made the pass, but I tried to cut the corner a little tight, and it wasn't really the best call. And I tagged the left front tire the first time, and I barely touched the left rear. Like, it didn't even touch any of the bodywork. It was just that I just barely touched the wheel, and I bent the axle. So we thrashed and got it. Well, all right, throw me under the bus. Go.
No. I was going to give you a compliment. I was going to say it's better to hit the apex corner wall than the exit wall.
It wasn't the. I was trying to cut the apex to give the guy on the outside of me room who I was passing, and that was erroneous of me.
Well, but it's still easier to hit the apex than it is.
Most definitely,
it's a lot better. Yeah.
So we had Derek Crockett from Crockett Motorsports down there. He was helping out Scott Barnes. He was helping me out as well. So we He pulled the front end apart. Scott and I pulled the axle out, and we thrashed and got everything together. And I actually got back on the track for the last 3 laps of qualifying. Qualified third, finished third in the heat race, kind of just drove around and got it comfortable in the heat race. Finished second in the second heat race, started off pole, won the third heat race. Got a good start, was able to get around the outside of the point, the pole sitter, Shannon Casey, and then did the same thing in the main event and had a good run, and the guys behind me got caught up, and I ended up cruising home to a win. So that just was an exclamation point on the end of a great weekend. I had a lot of fun. People down there love their racing, and they love their karting, and the Bermuda Karting Club is a great group. Had amazing hospitality from the Barnes family. And a lot of firsts, let's put it that way. Checked off a lot of firsts. First time I've ever gotten a boat to cross the harbor, across the Sound, the Great Sound, to get to the racetrack. Every day we went back and forth across the water to get to the racetrack. That was awesome. I enjoyed that.
Well, I think we're going to have to do every other year, so I'll go next year.
Oh, wow. Wow. All right. Well, we'll see about that, mister. Let's, as we always do here in the debrief, start working through some of the other races that happened over the past couple of weekends, David. The 206 Cup, as we jump into our hashtag Operation Grassroots, a big shout out to everyone at Briggs Racing. The 206 Cup got rolling with they had 2 divisions this year. Talk a bit about the 206 Cup. They ran at MRP.
Well, this year the 206 Cup's broken off into 2 separate divisions. So they're going to have a central division, which is kind of made up of Indiana, Ohio area, and then keep their northern division, which kind of was where they were at with Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois type facilities. So they're going to have a total of 9 races this year, with 4 in each division, and then they're going to end up with a Grand National down in Newcastle later this year, which hopefully we'll be at to race. We'll see. But this past weekend there, the Central Division was at the Michiana Raceway Park in South Bend. A lot of us have been there before. It is one of the first original 206 tracks. 206 has been there for a lot of years. And the 206 Cup was able to make their first visit there this year. 45 entries in the 5 categories they had, from sportsman all the way up to masters. It's about the normal numbers for their program. Again, it's grassroots program. It's the club guys coming up to race a traveling series and to have some fun, a 3-day event, and to race 2 rounds of racing. But the biggest class there this past weekend was the senior medium category with 21 drivers in it, and had a lot of great racing. I saw some onboard videos throughout the weekend. But Scott Kleeman, we've seen him at Rock Island Grand Prix be a front runner, and he was able to win both main events on the weekend. You know what I like there, David, is it's a grassroots deal, as you said, and it's the first year for the Central program just getting rolling, and to get 21 guys in senior medium. We've seen it before. 21 will draw 25, 25 will draw 30, and all of a sudden people are like, man, I need to go play here because there's a 30 or 35 cart grid, and hopefully we'll see the other classes grow. But great start, and I do like the idea of splitting the north and the central, because you talk about pulling a long distance, and that's one of the things that makes it tough for a 206 program. A lot of these guys are trying to race on a budget, and when you're traveling 6, 7, 8 hours to an event, that really doesn't make it easy. And I think that splitting that is a great start, and hopefully they'll see more drivers at the next race. Yeah, I think you'll see a little bit more as the season goes along. I think they were expecting a little bit more with it being in Indiana and being very close to Indianapolis, where we have a lot of 206 racers, but there's a lot of them in Ohio that are waiting for their races to come up. And so I think you're not going to see a lot of guys follow the complete series. I think you'll see a lot of just guys just hitting 1 or 2 events, like you said, because their budget only fits that. Because another big deal is tires. A lot of these different tracks have different tire programs, so with the 206 Cup, it's a Vega tire. Well, not a lot of clubs have the Vega tire. MRP has just adopted the Vega tire, so their group is now on Vega tires. But not a lot of other tracks in the Midwest area have the Vega tires. So it's kind of another hurdle that really the only major hurdle we have in 206 racing is just tire selection. But with racing costs money. Sometimes you need to buy tires. But some racers just don't look at it that way, and they just want to stick with what they have. So it's kind of a battle. It's a battle that we're seeing. Move on into the Yamaha shootout that took place at Concept Haulers Raceway. What a fantastic event. I love seeing
events like this for Yamaha, some cool money races. Give us a bit of a review on what happened at the shootout.
Well, the facility is trying to bring it back to prominence. It was a very nationally known facility throughout the years, especially dating back to late 90s, early 2000s, where we saw Stars of Karting and SCUSA hosting major events there. And they're a grassroots track as well too, so they're focusing on building a Yamaha program back again, and so they decided to start this Yamaha shootout. It was held the last weekend in April. Unfortunately, the weather did not cooperate for their Saturday event. A lot of rain came down, but still they had 22 entries show up. A lot of quality drivers all the way from Ohio, Minnesota, Illinois, Indiana, a lot of different places show up with to compete. And overall, they had almost a $3,500 purse for the entire event, with a lot of sponsorship, a lot of cash sponsorship, a lot of prize sponsorship. MG Tires gave them a lot of sets of tires to hand out in the podiums. They had a pre-final podium, they had a feature podium, so a lot of people went away with a lot of prizes and especially cash. And the big cash went to Stephen Dial, who was handed the victory after Patrick Olson, the provisional winner, failed a tech inspection. And so a little controversy in the first event, but Dial took home the victory and took home the big cash.
All right, Davey, do you want to give us a little preview? I know that in a couple weeks' time you're going to be heading to the WK Manufacturers Cup. Before we head into the Cartlift Racing Calendar to cap off this edition of the Debrief, do you want to give us a little preview of what you expect from Man Cup?
Yeah, next weekend, head down over to Wampum, Pennsylvania, a place you've never been.
I've never been there. I know.
Been there a few times, but the Manufacturers Cup will host its second event of the season, coming off the Winter Cup and the first event, which was down in Daytona back in December. So it's been a while since the series has gotten back going, but they have right now over 100 pre-entries, and I'm expecting more for trackside. And the championship battles will start to begin. We got Alex Kardashian leading the Yamaha championship. Right now it's AJ Myers leading the IAME Senior Championship, but we don't expect him there, nor do we expect Brandon Jarzakrak to show up. So it kind of defaults down to Jonathan Koitek. He'll be the guy to beat in the IAME Senior. Down in junior categories, we got Elliot Budzinski in the Yamaha division, and then in IAME Junior we have Paulie Massimino. So we got a lot of big name drivers that are going to be showing up. We expect more to enter at track, and we'll be on trackside all weekend long with Xander Clements on the microphone.
Let's have a look at that Cartlift Racing Calendar now. This weekend, just coming up, the Championship Enduro Series getting things going at Gateway, May the 13th and 14th. If you're not racing, get out to your local club race, get some driving in. Big weekend, May 21-22. Can-Am Karting Challenge at Tri-Cities, Richland, Washington. I'm actually going to be heading out there and doing some play-by-play for Mike Rawlson and the whole Can-Am crew. David, as you said, you'll be over at Pit Race, the WK Manufacturers Cup, you and Xander Clements, May 19, 2021. LAKC, Los Angeles Karting Championship, back on track at Cal Speed. The Sanzuro Games Karting Championship will take to the facility at Sonoma. Big weekend, as you said. Colorado Karting Tour over at SBR Motorsports. The Texas Sprint Racing Series will invade North Texas Karters at Denton. The 206 Cup back on the track. The North Series at Road America. And the Eastern Canadian Karting Championship gets rolling, gets underway at Goodwood Kartways, just about a little west of Toronto. Should be a pretty big weekend there. And, of course, capping off the season, at least I'll be focused on the Indianapolis 500 and the Freedom 100 for the Indy Lights Series. But May 27th, 28th, big series up in NorCal. The KPX Championship takes their traveling road show to Fresno, California. The F-Series get back at it again in Englishtown, New Jersey. And the Northwest Gold Cup out in Idaho at Snake River Karters. We'll talk more about what's happening in June, David, on the next episode of the Debrief here. But again, this particular edition of the Racing Calendar brought to you by Cartlift. Do want to thank Tim Coyne and Cartlift for presenting this weekend's Racing Calendar. Cartlift has been providing awesome kart stands to American karters since 1999. Recent expansion of their dealer network has their product shipping to Canada, Europe, and Australia, just to name a few of their international destinations. Cartlift produces great cart stands at a good value, as well as chassis protectors and accessories. They offer stackers and traditional stands, and both mechanical and electric one-man stands. To learn more, visit cartlift.com. David, closing right up, 5 seconds from the 40-minute mark. Bang on for this edition of the debrief.
You know, we like to keep things tidy with the exact amount of time.
Hey, David, it was a great weekend in Sonoma. I appreciate all your hard work, some exciting racing, and I think that the one thing that we're going to see from it is there's lots of discussion right now on trying to get better racecraft, whether it's going to be drop down, push back bumpers, or if they're going to start dropping the hammer when it comes to penalties using the video marshalling system and those marshals at each corner. And hopefully whatever happens, it's going to start permeating into the minds of the drivers saying, hey, you know what? We need to drive cleaner. We need to respect our guys more, our fellow drivers, and we need to improve our racecraft. That's really what I want to see from all the discussion that's happening online right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of key points that I'm going to be including in my From the Tower article that we'll post at the end of the week. Yeah, it's a discussion that's going to keep going, and I don't think it's a discussion that'll never end, unfortunately.
Well, you know what? I want to come down a little bit. It never has to end as long as at least we start working on it a little bit, because you're going to get side-by-side contact in karting. We're racing. And
well, that's something I think Norberg said pretty well, was I don't mind the side-to-side contact. You know, that's what they mostly saw up front, but that mid-pack stuff, that's where we're seeing a lot of the complaints come from. Yeah, so
just guys driving right into the back of someone, not, and we see it at the starts too. I saw a bunch of it happen at the start in turn 3. People just barreling into the corner and just hammering the guy in front of them, and that's just not the way to get the job done. Well, folks, we are wrapping up here our third edition of the EKN Debrief. This particular edition brought to you by Champion Racing, the importer and distributor of the Intrepid chassis. I want to thank you for joining us. On behalf of David Cole, this has been Rob Howden. Join us again as we have more podcasts coming here on the EKN Radio Network.